Oh God, these brakes suck, man. Nah, I'm not riding this thing anymore. I'm taking it back to the shop.
That's right, you read the title. Today we are working on the one mod that you have not considered for your motorcycle. Did you go ahead and install new brake pads and stainless steel lines on your bike only to find out that the brake pressure still doesn't feel quite right? Well, chances are you need to upgrade this thing right here. This is your brake master cylinder, and it's responsible for telling your brakes when and how much to brake based on your input on this lever. If this thing is a piece of junk, it doesn't matter whether or not you're running gold-plated lines and MotoGP rotors, your brakes are still not going to feel right. So today we have two options for you. This $20 lever that we bought off of Amazon, and this lever here from Magura, which we got on shop.yammynoob.co. We're gonna install both of these on this motorcycle and see which one feels best. Reveal your secrets. There we go. I will say that I'm not unimpressed by this lever. I was expecting it to, once it was all filled up, to feel like trash, but it feels okay, and the brake switch is working. All right, so we have installed this Amazon lever on here, and to be honest, I was not anticipating it being as simple as it was. This was really, really easy to bolt up, almost like it was designed to fit on this Royal Enfield. Now, I'm not saying that Royal Enfield used a bunch of like Amazon parts or whatever, but I'm also not saying they didn't do that. Now, as for initial feel here in the shop, I am impressed, honestly, at how it feels. It doesn't feel like ass. I was expecting it to feel worse than the Royal Enfield original master cylinder on here, but it honestly feels pretty good. We're gonna have to get it out on the road now and see how it feels in the real world.
Now, I didn't want to just do a around the block test here for you. I actually wanted to go out and hit a twisty road on this lever and see how it feels. And honestly, the first impression that I have with this lever is that it feels better. It's better than the stock one. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's perfect, but I am gonna talk about the good stuff first. So, definitely a lot more progressive feel out of the lever. We're getting more, I don't think we're getting any more stopping power or any less. It just feels more progressive. The one on the Royal Enfield stock felt a little bit more like a light switch, like brakes were off and then suddenly they're on. There's a lot more degree and a lot more sensitivity out of the master cylinder, which is nice. It actually is communicating a little bit more what's going on down at that brake, which I honestly wasn't expecting out of this. I was expecting this thing to just feel like trash, and it doesn't. It is an improvement. However, I do want to point out the fact that there is a ton of slop in this lever, and that's not something that you can dial out of this system. So, what do I mean by that? There's a lot of pull in the lever before the brakes come on. So, I'm going to get to a straight here, and then watch what happens when I pull the lever with my hand. And now we start to slow down. So there's a long distance that you have to pull this lever. There's a lot of slack that you have to take in before it starts slowing the bike down, and that's not great. That specifically results in a lot of grabbing of the front brake in a panic stop. It means that you basically need to be riding around with the brake partway pulled in. You're not going to be putting any pressure on the pads or anything. You're not going to overheat them, but you have so much to go before the lever comes on that there's just so much negative space. Now, I know you're saying, well, use the switch, use the like dial switch to get that out of there. That's not going to change anything on there. That's not going to improve that problem. It's just going to change the point at which the lever, in its sweep, at which it starts actuating the brakes, you know. It's not actually going to change that slop in the lever. It's not what it's designed to do. That is down to the construction of all of this. There's just some negative space before the brakes actually start working. And let's be real, the install process on this, very, very simple. It bolted right up to this motorcycle, and there were no modifications that I needed to make. So in that sense, I am thoroughly impressed by this Amazon lever. Would I put it on my motorcycles? Probably not. But now let's run back to the shop and see how that Magura one feels. All right, back here in the shop, we are going to install the Magura lever on here. Now, one thing I want to point out is this did not come with the banjo bolt. Luckily, we are sharing walls with Cousin Bob, who's got a whole bunch of these parts lying around, and he just gave us one of these nice aluminum banjo bolts and some fresh crush washers. But if you are going to be installing this on your bike, make sure that you have an M10x1 bolt and some fresh washers to go in there so you can get the job done. Now, let's get this lever off and this one on and see if we can get rid of that nasty lever slop that's on here. Why don't I screw this together? The Magura is now on this bike, and let me say, the made in Germany stuff, it's feeling really, really nice on this motorcycle. It took a lot longer to put on because it's not a simple bolt-up universal thing. You actually need to measure the bars out, make sure that you get everything put on properly, and man alive, is it worth all of the effort of putting it on here, because this thing feels really nice here in the shop, but we're gonna have to see how that translates out on the road. Now, out here on the road with the Magura, man alive, is the braking performance on this motorcycle night and day different. Holy cow. I wasn't sure how much this was going to improve over the Amazon one, because the Amazon one felt pretty good, right? It felt, you know, it was an improvement over the stock, and this was an even further improvement. I am honestly genuinely surprised at the braking performance that we're getting out of this bike for such a simple upgrade. All of those issues that I was feeling with the delay in the lever, how quickly that slop needed to be taken in while you were braking, and how that sort of made the braking performance a bit more herky-jerky, that's all gone with this Magura. It's so much smoother right now. It's so much smoother, it's wild. I do need to check when we get back to the shop. I didn't hit the torque value for that bolt, so we might be losing a little bit of fluid, but it's not enough for me to be nervous while I'm riding. And hopping on the brakes here is a treat, honestly. It feels like this whole system is undone by such a cheap master cylinder, because we have stainless steel lines and we have the Bibri calipers, or caliper singular, up there. I mean, these aren't bottom shelf pieces of kit, but the master cylinder is absolutely bottom shelf. It cannot compete with the rest of the hardware. So going up to this 13 mil Magura, holy cow, was it improved. It actually kind of is blowing my mind. It feels like I'm willing to push this bike a little harder because the brake responds so well. It honestly feels similar to the R7's master cylinder that it has, and that braking performance feels great on that motorcycle. So definitely, if you're out there looking to get a little bit more braking performance, highly recommend checking out this Magura here. But let's take this bike back in the shop and see exactly if we can quantify how much of an improvement there was.
So that was a lot of wrenching and a lot of riding, but did we learn anything? Obviously, the thing that we learned is that the Amazon lever shockingly worked pretty well. I was not expecting this thing to work the way that it did. And however, I would not put this on my motorcycle. There's a lot of things that concern me about this lever in particular, not least of which is the fact that there is a lot of slop when you're trying to reach for the brake. I don't love that. I also am a little bit concerned about the longevity of these parts. The main thing that I realized is that Royal Enfield shot themselves in the foot by putting this cheapo master cylinder on here. This thing is undoing the entire braking performance of the front end of this motorcycle, and for 120 bucks or thereabouts, you get yourself a much, much improved brake feel. Remember guys, click that link down in the description below, get yourself this Magura master cylinder or any of the tools we use to do this job, and every dollar you spend is an entry to win this Royal Enfield right here or any of the other bikes that we're giving away. In the meantime, I'll catch you guys in the next episode of Yammy Noob.
Keep watching Yammy Noob!